Greetings, and we're done for the night. And if you are a fan of a home team, tonight it's kind of a time to be saying sorry, and the playoffs change every single night in the East. The good news is, if you're an Islanders fan, you got some games in hand over the teams that have passed you. The problem is you got to win them now, because there's teams that have passed you. That being said, the East continues to be pretty darn unpredictable, and there was only one Western team in action tonight out of the 6 teams that played. Tomorrow, keep in mind, we got 13 games, 26 teams, and I was looking ahead. I was flipping through the schedule today, and we get pretty busy next week. Next week is a pretty busy week the whole way through, so looking forward to what happens then. And in the morning, we'll discuss what's about to happen, apparently, with Dustin Byfuglien, in that it looks like there's been a mutual agreement to terminate his contract between himself and the Jets. And I'm surprised he hasn't retired, to be completely honest. To be honest. That being said, let's get on with tonight's games. First up, we've got the Florida Panthers in against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this one looked great for the Leafs early. They're up 3-0 in shots halfway through, or 5 minutes into the period. And then at the halfway mark, they're up 9-0 in shots. It's a crazy night. Lots of shots for Toronto. Bobrovsky playing well. Well, you know how that works out, right? Yeah. Pesek scores from Matheson and Malgin 11 minutes and 30 seconds. And Pesek, we had no indication at that point, is in for a big night. A guy who's played defense and forward. And tonight made the argument that maybe you leave him at forward for a while. The Panthers got a power play. They didn't score on that one, but a much better second half of that period for Florida than it was in the first half. Vetrano then crashed into Freddie Andersen. Andersen stayed in the game. He got up. But to start the second period, Hutchinson was in. And, of course, if you're a Leafs fan, that is absolutely the worst-case scenario. At this point, the result isn't as important as, is Freddie okay? Because if Freddie's not okay, and we don't know right now just how long he's going to be out, or if this is just like a small thing, but if it turns out to be a groin injury, or if it's some kind of a strain that could keep him out for a few weeks, I would think Kyle Dubas is going to be on the phone trying to find somebody else to come in. The Leafs get a power play. Tavares scores from Marner and Barrie at 3:21. So it's 1-1. And Toronto dominated the first half of that period as well. The Panthers got hemmed in at around the 11-minute mark. And then Janssen had a break that shot high. So, great period of hockey for Toronto. Any shots Florida got in that second period were from quite a distance, and their defense was absolutely fantastic. The Leafs get a power play late. They don't score on it, but just after it ended, Willie Nylander gets a goal from Kapanen and Janssen at 19:06. So that makes it 2-1 for Toronto going into the third. And in the third, the teams exchange goals. First, it's Austin Matthews scoring from Hyman and Marner at 38 seconds. That's a good turn of events for Toronto, right? They're up 3-1. They're all set. It's Florida. It's not all set. And Florida, channeling the spirit of the Kansas City Chiefs in this one, Pesek scores from Matheson and Brown at 2:20. All right, it's 3-2. They get a power play, those Florida Panthers, on the power play. Huberdeau scores from Dadonov and Hoffman at 3:18. This is where you make note. Barkov, not playing. Boyle, not playing. So with 2 of their top 4 centers out, Florida doing all right. So they tied up the game. The Leafs got a power play. They would not score on that one. And then Hoffman gets a goal just after the halfway mark from Ekblad and Matheson at 10 minutes and 13 seconds. And that's where the fans seem to kind of turn. The Leafs were kind of scrambling, and it sounded like, now I'm saying sounded like, you guys can let me know in the comment section below if you heard it as well. It sounded like a Bronx cheer directed at Hutchinson when he made a save there after allowing 3 goals. And I kind of get it, but man, yeah, I don't understand when your goaltender's struggling. What helped Hutchinson, I think, a lot was that Leafs fans were very encouraging of him and towards him, and while he was dealing with being winless and all. And there's a lot of pressure on this guy right now in Florida. They're a pretty good team when it comes to scoring goals. Tavares, Matthews, and Marner were then thrown together as a line as Sheldon Keefe tries to answer what Florida's done. they wouldn't get a goal. In fact, they kind of got hemmed in their own zone as a line. So the defensive aspect of the game, it's not a great argument for having them together. And then with a minute and 42 seconds left, there was some bad ice at the Florida end of the rink. So that got the Leafs kind of a timeout because you got to fix that bad ice. So while linesmen are fixing that, the Leafs got to talk some stuff over. They pull the goalie with a minute and a half left in the game, and that leads to Pesek getting his first ever National Hockey League hat trick at 19 minutes and 12 seconds. He poked the puck off, I believe it was Marner's stick. So your final score is 5-3. And if you're a fan of the Panthers, congratulations. They are currently third in the division. They're tied in points with Toronto. They've got the tiebreaker. Toronto falls completely out of the playoffs. So this is how things work now. You're either third or you're out of the playoffs. Bobrovsky saved 31 out of 34. I thought he was solid. Andersen saved 7 out of 8 before exiting the game after the first. And Hutchinson saved 10 out of 13. And there will be endless discussions about Hutchinson until Kyle Dubas makes a move, is my guess. Pesek's your first star, Hoffman second, and Matheson third. Power plays, Florida goes 1 for 2, Toronto goes 1 for 3. The shots were 13-8, Toronto in the first, 14-3, Toronto in the second, and then in the third, Florida outshot them 10-7. Final shots, 34-21 in favor of Toronto, but the discussions out of this, every discussion is going to be about Andersen. Is Andersen okay? Have we checked on Andersen in the last 5 minutes? Can somebody call Andersen now? Has anybody talked to his mother? It's going to be kind of crazy until we know how long he's going to be out. Next up, Dallas. And Dallas went in and put on an impressive show tonight. I'm going to be completely honest. I thought Dallas had an impressive game except for one problem. Their penalty kill sucked. And it's weird because for most of the season I've talked about their power play not being great. And tonight the power play was fine. Their penalty kill, not so much. The Rangers get an early power play, and they score on it, because that's what they do when they get a power play tonight. Buchnevich scores from D'Angelo and Panarin at 2:29, and the Stars then got a power play, and they scored. And the Rangers challenged it for believing that it hit the netting. And it looked on the replay like it did. It looked like it had actually hit the netting, which would mean the puck was out of play. And even the Dallas announcers, even Darryl Ray, thought it was out of play. So they failed with that challenge, and the goal counts. So this is what happens. Pavelski gets the power play goal from Klingberg and Ben at 8:08, and then they go right back on the power play. Well, Pavelski scores again from Ben and Sagan at 8:24. So in 16 seconds, it's gone from a 1-0 lead for the Rangers to 2-1 in favor of Dallas. And what made it hurt even worse, they only had 3 shots to that point in the game, so the shooting percentage was 66%. Lundqvist played pretty well after that, but, well, yeah. The Rangers got a power play. Como had a shorthanded breakaway that was stopped. The Rangers then score a goal with the power play, but it was waved off as being gloved into the net. So they review it. Now, that's a good goal. So that's twice that we've seen reviews in this period. Howden gets the goal from Lemieux and Kakko at 15:41. Howden bats the puck down with his hand, but then he sticks it into the net. Now, if he just batted it down with his hand and he missed it with the stick altogether, that's a glove into the net. That's no goal. But since the stick was the last part to touch it, it's a goal. And so it's 2-2 after 1, and all 4 goals are scored on the power play. As Darryl Ray said with a laugh, stay out of the box. Second period, fast start. The Rangers, I thought this was their kind of game. Was very fast, few whistles, exciting play, keep it wide open. However, Johns would score his first from Dickinson and Janmark at 7:52. And that's the first goal that Stephen Johns has in the NHL since February 16th of 2018. So almost 2 years. We were less than 2 weeks away from it being 2 years since his last goal in the NHL. Johns has been kind of sort of fantastic since he came back. Now, it may just be one of those pushes a guy will get after a trade or after returning from injury. We'll see. We'll see how long it goes on. But he's been excellent. Como then scored from Sagan and Faxa at 11:56. And with 2 even-strength goals, Dallas has a 4-2 lead. They then called a diving call on Heiskanen, and they gave a hooking penalty to Howden on the same play. And again, I'm going to agree with the Dallas announcers on this. I didn't think either was a penalty. I didn't think it was a hook. And I definitely didn't see how it was a dive on Heiskanen. But, okay, so it went to 4-on-4 play. Neither team would score, probably for the best. But we then get 2 late penalties called against the New York Rangers. So the third period starts with the Stars on a power play. 5-on-3 is a little more dangerous if you have the full minute or minute and a half during that same period. But since it was broken up by the break between the second and the third, I think that eliminates some of that effectiveness. Either way, the Rangers kill it all off. And then Corey Perry scores from Sekera and Johns at 5:22. So Sekera with another helper, and Johns having a pretty darn decent game. Goal and an assist at that point for him in the game. The Stars really continuing their strong road play. They've been very good on the road recently. It was one area where I got concerned for Dallas last year. Quite often was their play on the road. This year it really hasn't been a big problem. The Rangers then got a power play, and since it's a Rangers power play, it scored. Brandon Lemieux with the goal from Adam Fox at 13:17. So that's a power play marker. That's 3 power play markers for the Rangers. They pulled a goalie with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. It was Georgiev by this point that was in the net. There's a timeout with 1 minute and 26 seconds left. And then Lemieux's getting a penalty. And then he puts the puck into the net after the whistle's gone. Well, you know what happens when you put the puck into the net after the whistle's gone. Jamie Benn tried to pull his head off of his shoulders, but didn't get it done. And Ben goes to the box. I'm sure he was okay with that. It makes it 4-on-4. Not a big deal. And 5-3 is your final in favor of the Dallas Stars. Hudobin saves 32 out of 35 in the victory. Lundqvist saved 11 out of 15 in the first and second. And in the third, Georgiev saved 5 out of 6. Pavelski, Johns, and Lemieux are your 3 stars. Power plays 2 for 4 for Dallas. 3 for 3 for the Rangers. Dallas' penalty kill sucked. Shots 13-7 for the Rangers in the first, 8 apiece in the second, and then 15-6 in favor of the Rangers in the third. Final shots 36-21 in favor of the Rangers. Notice how similar the shots are in these games. Both games, the home team has more shots. Both of the home teams used 2 goalies for different reasons, and both home teams lost. So just an oddity, and it doesn't happen often, but throughout these games, they were very close statistically to one another, and then your score ends up being exactly the same. Again, it doesn't get there exactly the same way, but the scoring lines don't look entirely dissimilar. All right, last game of the night. Philadelphia in against Detroit, and got to be honest with you, it was obvious to me early on Detroit just didn't really have it. The shots were 2-1 for the Philadelphia Flyers at 5.5 minutes into the first period. 5.5 minutes. That's not great. Myers had a chance that missed high. The Philadelphia Flyers had to push it around the 8-minute mark. Bernier denied Farabee. Farabee had a good game. Again, Joel Farabee is really developing nicely. Bernier, I thought, played an excellent game again. He's done that a lot in losing causes this year. The Flyers got a power play, and during that power play, Darren Helm with an amazing shorthanded break. So we're scoreless after 1. We are only scoreless after 1 because of Bernier. Let's be honest. This was not a great game for Detroit on any level. The Wings, just not the effort. I don't know. The announcers really tried to pump up the Wings as putting in the effort and showing a lot of heart. And I thought, not in this game. I've seen it in other games where I've been like, Detroit's really playing well, but this game I didn't really see it. The Flyers got a power play in the second period. They don't score on that one, but Lawton would score from Raffle and Haig at 9:31, so about halfway through the game it's 1-0. I don't know, it just felt like that would probably be it. And then they put up an interesting stat. The Flyers at home are scoring 3.62 goals per game. The Flyers on the road, 2.62 goals per game. So they are scoring a full goal more on the road than at home. And that's really the problem that they're having right now. The Flyers had more than double the shots of the Detroit Red Wings at certain stages of this game. And it ends up being pretty close to double by the end of this. Third period, the Wings get an early power play. So what happens? Well, Hayes scores shorthanded is what happens at 2:47. That is the 10th shorthanded goal versus the Wings. Wings fans, hold your heads up. that leads the National Hockey League. And they weren't done allowing shorthanded goals in this game. There was a good chance for the Wings that missed it around 7.5 minutes because that's how this game worked for them. Bernier denied Braun. The shots were even throughout the first half. There's a late power play for the Wings. They pull the goalie. So 6-on-4. And Niskanen from the other end of the ice. Shorthanded goal into the empty net at 17:43. That is the 11th shorthanded goal against the Wings to lead the league probably by a lot. I'm going to say they have a healthy lead when it comes to shorthanded goals against, and they just don't manage anything tonight. The thing that surprised me is that Elliott gets the number 1 star, and yet, I don't know, there really wasn't a whole lot else going on with this game. Maybe Hayes with another shorty, maybe, but Lawton and Bernier are your second and third stars. Elliott's 40th career shutout. I believe that's his second of the year. He only had to face 16 shots. So it's one of those shutouts where you go, yeah, you got a shutout. But Bernier, 28 saves on 30 shots. He was fantastic. Shots, 12-5 in the first in favor of Philly. 9-6 Philly in the second. And then 10-5 Philly in the third. Final shots, 31-16. Like I said, Philly almost doubled them in shots. Pretty darn close. Power plays, both teams went 0 for 2. But what doesn't show up in that number is 2 shorthanded goals scored by the Philadelphia Flyers, who get a win that they needed. And they jump back into a playoff position. So as I said, the Islanders, they have 3 games in hand on a couple of the teams in front of them. They're a point now behind Philadelphia. They are down to the number 2 wild card. That increases the pressure on them tomorrow night. They need to come out and win a game because Carolina's 1 point behind them. Toronto's 1 point behind them as well. So there really isn't any room for error if you're the New York Islanders, who have played 3 less games than the Philadelphia Flyers. But for the Flyers, 65 points bumps them back into a top 8 spot. And so there you go. They right now are the number 1 wild card. Would play Boston if the playoffs started today. And now the Islanders have been bumped down where they would play the Capitals in the first round if the playoffs started today. And of course, Toronto out. And for the Detroit Red Wings, they are now 36 points out of the playoffs. It's impressive. It's impressive how far out of the playoffs they have fallen. Yeah, it's impressive just how far out they are. That being said, let me know your thoughts regarding tonight's games in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And for Maple Leafs fans, how do you figure you're going to do on the Panic Index on Wednesday should Andersen's prognosis not be great and the Leafs have trouble picking up somebody before their next game? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. There will be a Panic Index this Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for everything. I will talk to you again soon.